Do you ever think you know something and feel really quite sure that you're right, and then find out that you were wrong? It's quite an uncomfortable experience. Well, it has been for me. But it can lead you to a deeper understanding, more interesting conversations, and better connections with other people. So maybe it can be good to be wrong sometimes. So the thing that got me thinking about this was because I recently became quite convinced that I was autistic. I gathered all the information, all the evidence, and confidently diagnosed myself, and even started telling people. I didn't come to that decision overnight, and I put a lot of effort into it, but yet still I was wrong, or at least I think I was. I do have something that's quite close to autism, but it isn't the same. And the problem I had was that I didn't have all the information. But surely nobody ever has all the information because that state doesn't exist. I was trying to be decisive for a change and not let doubt and the never-ending quest for information get in my way. And that turned out to be a mistake. Well, maybe not a mistake, but certainly a lesson about being open to being wrong. And it was a strange feeling because I don't like being wrong, but at the same time, being wrong helped me to feel a step closer to the truth. So that felt like progress. It didn't feel nice or come naturally to say I was wrong about that, but I think I'm beginning to see how useful it can actually be. Being able to challenge and test out what you think you know can potentially bring you a lot more than you already had. And in the end, I'm glad I proved myself wrong about autism because when I kept challenging and questioning my decision, that's when I came across giftedness, which is another different type of neurodiversity, but one that seems to match my experience more closely. But this time I'm not going to say that I'm certain, because I might find another branch of neurodiversity next week, and that I might feel even more closely aligned to. So I'll just say that at the moment, I think giftedness is the thing that matches my experience the most. I think I'm close to being autistic, but I don't have the challenges with communication that can be one of the defining characteristics. What I do have is heightened intensity, complexity, and drive, which seems to be the definition of giftedness. So people often assume that it's only about IQ and intelligence, and while there is a connection to those things, they aren't the defining characteristics. It's a different way of thinking and a different way of experiencing the world, which is why there is so much overlap with autism. And being able to find out all of these things is proving to be really helpful to me, and I've realised it's because I was willing to be wrong. So I wonder if anyone else can relate to this, that being wrong brought you more than being right ever could have. And it's making me wonder what else I might be wrong about and what I might be able to learn more about by being wrong. So I had another example recently that was much less deep and meaningful, but still another useful reminder to me to not assume that I'm right about something. So it's a little bit gross, but bear with me. So I noticed some yellow residue in the bath and decided that somebody in the house must have been having a pee while they were in the shower. So I went around each of the people in the house asking them not to do it. They all claimed that they weren't, but I assumed that they were just too embarrassed to admit to it when I questioned them. So I did get a little bit cross about it because it still kept happening even after I'd had a word with each of them. But then when I went into the bathroom one morning, I caught the cat crouching in the bath having a pee. So I hadn't for 1 minute considered that it could have been her. So I had to eat some humble pie about that and learn that just because I think I'm right, it doesn't mean that I am. So I ended up being the one who was embarrassed after being so sure I was right, after looking at what I thought was all the evidence. So it taught me a lesson, and I do hope I haven't been too awful in the past in thinking that I'm right about things. So the lesson I want to learn and take forward is to be curious rather than assertive or judgmental about things, asking questions rather than making statements. I'm fairly sure that I said something like, somebody is doing it and somebody isn't being honest about that. Whereas I could have been saying, those marks in the bath are coming from somewhere and I really want to find out what it is. It's only a slight reframing, but it's much more open for the person on the receiving end. So since I've been noticing this weak spot of treating opinions as facts, I'm seeing how many other people also give their opinions as if they're facts. So I know I'm not the only person who's falling into that trap. And I'm not planning to say anything to those people because I think, like me, they need to realise it for themselves. And it can certainly be a sensitive subject because people can be very connected to their opinions, to the point that they become part of their identity. So suggesting that those things might be wrong could be very difficult for someone to hear. I don't think I would have wanted someone else to tell me that I wasn't autistic, after all the work I'd done to reach that decision. It's also a bit challenging if you want to or need to be seen as a confident person. If there's never any conviction to your thoughts and opinions, it might be difficult to be taken seriously in certain situations. So although it might be more honest, there is a risk of seeming weak if you don't demonstrate belief in your opinions. So the way I'm managing it at the moment is to use the words "I think" before talking about something that could be an opinion rather than a fact. I think it softens it a bit and leaves some room for ambiguity or for me to change my mind in the future if some extra information comes along that might help me to see things a bit differently. I try not to use it all the time though, because I do want to seem confident as well as humble and open to other opinions. Because I am confident in the things I say and I have done my homework. But the type of subjects I like are complex and there does always tend to be scope for learning a bit more. And it's worth remembering that opinions are only ever your current best guess. So a best guess can change, especially when more information comes to light. And there's a big difference between I think and I know, and there's a time and a place for each of them. I don't think my birthday is in September, I know it is. I don't know that I have giftedness, but I think I do. So I know that I've been a bit high and mighty about my opinions in the past, talking about them as if they were facts, but I've realised now that there are better ways to frame those things. I think because I've always been willing to do the hard work of researching and learning, that somehow that gives me the right to think I know the answers. But really, I've just read a lot of things and formed opinions, and that's all. Someone else could read the exact same things and form a different opinion. And then who's right and who's wrong? So I'm not saying that I'm planning to stop forming opinions about things, just that I want to remember the difference between an opinion or an assumption and a fact. And there really aren't many things in life that are facts. And when people think their opinion is a fact, it can close down a conversation that might have led somewhere interesting. So I want to make sure that I'm opening up conversations rather than closing them down. So I plan to present my opinions as just that in the future, so that anyone can come back at me with their opinion and we can have an interesting conversation about where we agree and where we disagree. So those are the types of conversations that make life more interesting, and that's what I want. So I wonder if this resonates with anyone else. Do you default to thinking you're right about things, or are you open to being challenged about what you think? I would love to know if you'd like to leave a comment. So I hope this video has given you something to think about, and I'm grateful that you watched it. And I hope to see you next time. Bye!